Has the Lord ever called you to speak up when every natural instinct told you to stay quiet? In Jeremiah 26, we read a narrative, a powerful narrative about standing firm in obedience to the Lord when everything and everyone seems stacked against you. Jeremiah had a hard job to do. God sent him straight into the temple courts, into the heart of the religious community, into the heart of the political community to deliver a message no one was interested in hearing. When the Lord called Jeremiah way back in chapter 1, his instructions had been clear. He said to Jeremiah, he said, now listen, gird up your loins. He said, you get up and tell them everything that I order you. Don't be terrified by them, or else I will terrify you before them. He says, speak every word I command you. Don't leave anything out. Right? Why? Because lives are at stake. And Jeremiah is not just speaking to pagans or to the rebellious or to the indifferent. He's addressing the so-called the righteous, right? He's addressing the very people who actually showed up at the temple. And they're there, they're saying the right words, and they're offering sacrifices. But their hearts are far from God. And they're stuck in self-centeredness and in greed and deceit. So Jeremiah is standing there knowing full well that this message would provoke outrage. He tells them, if you don't listen, this place is going to become ruins like Shiloh. It'll become a curse. Shiloh was the place where the tabernacle of the Lord had rested for 4 centuries and was now in ruins. He says, that's going to happen here. Well, no one liked that message. The crowd turns on him. The priests, the prophets, the people begin to shout, he's got to die. You have to die, Jeremiah. But Jeremiah doesn't back down. He doesn't soften the message to save himself. He says, do what you want with me, but know this. If you kill me, you're shedding innocent blood. I'm only here because the Lord sent me. I don't gain. I don't benefit from this. His tenor isn't combative or hostile. In love, he's pleading with them. This doesn't have to happen. Turn from your ways and respond to the Lord. And in that moment, something begins to shift in some. Some of the leaders and the people start to remember their history. A man named Ahikam begins to speak up, and together they recall the prophet Micah, who had delivered a similar warning to King Hezekiah years earlier. When Micah warned Hezekiah, Hezekiah didn't have Micah killed. Instead, Hezekiah repented, and because of his repentance, disaster was averted. Did everyone listen? No, but a remnant did, a few. Jeremiah's courage begins to inspire wisdom to rise up among the people, and his life is spared. Well, that's not to suggest that everyone who speaks God's truth averts suffering. One of Jeremiah's contemporaries, Uriah, had given the same kind of warning, but the king hunted him down and had him killed. The reality is following God's call isn't easy. It's risky. But what we learn from Jeremiah is that obedience matters even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. What we see in Ahikam, the man who stood up to protect Jeremiah, is that God often uses people to defend his purposes. Is there a place in your life where the Lord is calling you to speak up, to stand firm? What if your courage, what if speaking the truth in love could change someone's life? What if your obedience could bring hope or turn a heart back to God? Today, be bold, be brave, speak the truth with love, stand up for what's right, even if it's uncomfortable. Trust what God is saying to you and that he is with you, and remember that one act of obedient courage can make a world of difference.